On the agenda. As I said, I want to welcome Jessica Stromback, who is the CEO of Jewel, who is here this evening to talk about CCA, the recent launch of CCA here in the town of Eastchester. And Jessica, by way of background, I think maybe you already know that the task force is quite familiar with CCA and the process. We've been through it in 2021. So we welcome your comments, and we just want to make sure that there's going to be enough time for the members of the task force to ask questions and express their concerns. So with that introduction, I see Marianne just came on, and I think we may just be waiting for Patty, but yeah, Marianne is on. Okay, so with that introduction, let's get started. Jessica, you're on.
Sure. So, yeah, I mean, first of all, thank you very much for having me. I really appreciate it. It's so nice to be able to meet the groups that actually create change in a lot of the municipalities like these, because usually we deal with municipal leaders who, of course, are incredibly important, but are to be effective need to be backed by groups like yourself. So thank you for letting me join your time. I know you have a lot of work to do. As far as the contracting process for this time round, as you know, we wanted to start the program again because of the default of Columbia. And in that, we were looking at getting in a good price for residents that would allow them to continue to save money in this very high inflation scenario. During the time that we contracted, the cost of New York State renewables has gone up by multiples. So it's significantly more expensive than when we began. And that means that this time round, we suggested to everyone that they use a 50% New York renewables rate and a 50% national. So it's a blended offering. So it's 100% renewables, 50% come from New York and 50% come nationally. The other thing that we have as our standard, because Jewel focuses on looking to benefit everyone in a community, we'll always suggest to municipalities that they include a standard product for those who want it. Now, in reality, very few residents ever choose the standard, but it's just if people want it, particularly in a high inflation system like we're in right now, we just include that automatically. The other thing that we always suggest, of course, is that there's the 100% New York renewable option as well. And I know that you have had questions, or Mary has come to me with questions around the process. So I'm really happy to answer those, but maybe you should just ask me your questions and tell me where you're at.
You know how to raise your hand?
Yeah.
Well, I'd like to, start.
Go for it.
This is Skip Arthur. So I understand why you put the standard dirty energy in.
Mm-hmm.
But the way my problem is with the way the communication was. When
Yeah.
you put that letter, the first thing on the top is that.
I guess standard.
Choice.
Yeah.
And so the first choice is a standard non-renewable, non-ecological
Standard dirty.
product.
Yeah.
At the same, and the 100% renewable is at the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
It's also very, very unclear that 50%, you just explained it very well, but nowhere in the letter, again, a communications thing.
Yeah.
Nowhere in the letter is that what you just explained.
You
People,
said,
they look at it, they say 50% renewable. That means the other 50% is not renewable.
I know.
Now, questioning, I found out that's the case, and you had referenced the state wanting to state it that way, but you were allowed just now to state it 50% renewables from New York State, 50% out. Why couldn't that have been said in the letter? And why does the dirty energy get top billing?
I couldn't agree with you more. So the letter that we were required to send this time, we had absolutely no right to change anything. And by that, I mean, there were sentences that were incomplete that we couldn't make grammatically accurate.
So,
Okay,
let me
so
get-
we weren't allowed to change anything. We have since gone back with edits. I'd be really happy to go back with this edit as well. And what would be really, really helpful for me is if you could write me an email voicing that concern. That will help me with the regulators, because at this point, us telling them that
So did
will
the
not get them
regulator
very
actually
far,
give you that letter as we saw it?
and would not allow us to change a thing. Yeah.
Well, okay. My issue is pretty much the same at Skips. This is going out to the public.
Yeah.
Has gone out to the public.
Yep.
I've shown the letter to quite a few people and asked them, what does 50% mean?
Mhm.
And obviously they think it's 50% renewable, 50% fossil fuel.
Yeah.
At this point, that's, for whatever reason, for whatever technical reason, it's deceptive to the public. And
Yeah.
what happens is it's going to come back on us as the advisory group. It's going to come back on our elected officials. So unless there's some way of sending out another message clarifying this, I personally find it hard to support. Otherwise, I'm all in.
I mean, how could we? Because I agree with you. I mean, for one thing, just so you know, can I ask a question? Where does this get posted?
Which gets posted?
The recording.
Excuse me, I missed that. Excuse me, would you?
This is being recorded, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
the recording is just for the minutes and verification within the CAC. It's not posted for anybody in the public.
Okay. So really hard to do when it's recorded. I'm sorry. I'm gonna have to just pretend this is public. So just to say, we're trying to figure out how to mitigate this communication issue, because we're very concerned about it. It's misleading, it's inaccurate, it undermines the benefit the program's bringing, and it's false information.
Yep.
Right? Like national wind that is next door is just as valuable to the climate as wind that's here. Right. So we're in real agreement. And if you could, I really mean it, it would be very helpful to us if you would write an email saying what you just said, because of course DPS is looking to back these types of programs, and they need to hear from other people than us, because we say these kinds of things all the time. So
Jessica,
hearing from
this is-
local groups is really useful.
Jessica,
Please.
this is Ken Goldberg. Can I ask something? I'm still
Absolutely.
a little bit unsure. So let me go through the 4 choices that are in the letter that was sent to me, and that I assume was or will be sent to everybody else.
Yeah.
The first choice is Central Hudson Standard Electric Supply, and I certainly know what that is because
Mhm,
I've had it for many years, or had been forced to.
mhm.
The second is CCA Standard Supply. Are there any renewables in that or not? Okay,
Well, there's the same amount. It usually ends up being basically the same mix as the utility.
okay.
So
but
overall, it's
not a
no better, it's
guarantee.
no worse. It's
Okay.
basically the same. Yeah.
The third one listed is CCA 50% renewable supply, and you're now saying that that is 50% renewable from New York State, but also 50% renewable from out of New York State.
Yep.
can it not say that?
Nope.
CCA 50% renewable supply from New York State and 50% renewable from out of New York. It cannot,
Nope.
and you cannot put something in the local newspapers.
Absolutely. So why don't we run like a series of ads in the local paper and put
Sounds
up
good to me.
posters and like do all that kind of thing? Because that, you know, we can of course educate the public, but we have to be clear that from the perspective of New York State for a CCA, they are requiring that only the renewables that come from New York State are counted as renewable. So we have to go, just telling you. So we have to go and I just want to point something out, right? It's Joule that insists that the suppliers go and buy RECs from other places, even though we get no credit for it. We're not allowed to tell anyone. The towns aren't allowed to tell anyone. We just do it literally just to do it.
Okay,
Okay.
might I make a suggestion in addition to putting
Yeah.
something like that in the local papers? And maybe not clear it, but share it with us before it goes
Sure.
in.
Yeah,
Just to be
absolutely.
sure that it isn't
Yeah.
misleading as this was. But the other thing might be, I'm sure there wouldn't
Mhm.
be any problem in Saugerties putting it on the town of Saugerties website. Perhaps
Okay.
it could also go on the town website of all the other towns that have bought into this.
Yeah. So let me,
Okay, thank you.
yeah, no problem. So I'm writing this down. I'm just taking notes. So if we do,
Go ahead.
go for it. Yep.
Yeah. I just wanted to follow up on Ken's point in terms of communication. I noticed in the letter that with respect to 100% renewables, there was an asterisk that said there would be a premium. Why could there not have been an asterisk? Well, number one, why could there not have been an asterisk saying for the 50% renewable, an asterisk saying this means 50% renewable New York State, 50% renewable outside New York State? That's question
Please
one.
suggest that to them.
What?
They won't let us do it. Of course there could.
Well, okay, then I go to my other asterisk question. Why would there have been an asterisk saying that 100% renewable has a premium? Is that a requirement from the PSC, or is that something?
Yes, they are literally making us tell everyone, warning, warning, if you buy renewables, it's way more expensive.
Where is that in the PSC? Where? I've never seen that. Where is
It's
that?
in that order that I sent you.
I didn't-
And it's also in the other thing that's happening, Mary, that's very difficult is that the PSC is writing rules such as DPS will draft the letter. Okay, that's all they get. Then DPS drafts the letter, doesn't ask us, doesn't let us change anything, decides that things like standard power has to be first, won't move it, won't let us define terms. There are terms in that letter that most people don't understand. You guys probably haven't even noticed that because you're all educated. But we're getting questions about basic terminology, which is not defined. We always defined all our terminology so that anyone could understand it. That's all been taken out. So we're getting I had to hire more telephone personnel for the first time this went out because of the level of confusion that was caused. Okay, and that was on basic things like how on earth is this program working? Now they've gone and they've taken at least a couple of definitions and they've brought some of it to, they've taken some of our comments, but it took every single administrator in New York State writing them a letter saying, please define terms. That's how hard this process has been. And when we get to things like renewables, it's absolutely impossible. And that's why, by the way, I am pushing for a law, because if the PSC had to regulate in a way that benefited the environment, and made it that CCA was designed to benefit the environment and they had to regulate that way, they wouldn't be able to do things like this in the letters, you see, but they can now because it's not their focus. Right? So they can actually do things that undermine the ability of really encouraging responsible climate actions. And there's nothing we can do about it. I have no say at all. And I have no law to appeal to. So it's very, very frustrating right now. And so when I came to you and I said, could you guys please help us back a law? Because we need this changed. We need legal protection. We need a law saying that CCA should be used to benefit the environment and to benefit social justice. Here's the way they're allowed to do it. Then the regulators would follow that line and they'd follow it all the way out until silly things like how you define renewables, because they would be required to. Now there's nothing like that in there. And so we get these crazy situations. And everybody can just talk at once. I don't know anybody's name, so you're just allowed to just speak. Nobody needs to raise their hand and be polite. Just go ahead, jump in.
So,
Carol
Elizabeth.
has.
Oh, Carol, okay.
hand
I
up.
think Leslie had hers up before me,
Elizabeth has been waiting.
Let's
but,
start with Carol. She has her hand.
yeah, okay.
Go for it. Yeah.
So the 50% renewable is cheaper than the 100% of,
Yeah.
and that's part of the issue where we all thought that had to be 50 good and
Yes.
50 bad. Is there a way when you do communicate, because it's got to come from you, I think, to clarify, is that the 50% renewable is truly 100% renewable, but that 50% of it is state and 50% of it is out of state?
We will figure, we
You'll figure out
will
verbiage.
figure out a way,
Okay,
put that in. We're just going to have to bend into pretzels because of the regulation, but we
Right.
will, what I will do is I will go to the regulatory person. I'll say, how far can we push this and not get ourselves into more regulatory trouble, because we're in regulatory trouble all the time, right? So we're going to go try and push it as far as we can. And then I'll come back to all of you and I'll say, this is how far we got. Is there anything more we can do here? What would you guys suggest? And then we'll figure out, and we'll draft a newspaper ad and website language and all those good things.
But, Jessica, following up on that, I did see
Yeah.
at one point a definition of the 50-50. And it
Mhm.
talked about Rex. It was a definition. It was not an explanation. So
Mhm.
their definition will make very little sense to the average person who gets
I
the letter.
know.
It's got to
I
be
know.
an explanation, not just a definition.
No, I realize that.
Mhm.
So we'll work on, I'll push it as far as I can. I'll show it to you guys, and then I'm sure you'll have edits and things you think we can do to improve. And I'll know where my red line in the sand is now. You know what I mean? Because I'll talk to the regulatory person, and then we'll figure out something that works, that makes it clear for people.
Yeah.
and I think,
Yeah.
If I can clarify one important point.
Mhm.
You're saying that PSC required the sequence in the letter for standard, CCA standard, 50%, and then renewables. They required that sequence in the letter. Is that correct? Or am I
No, they required the regulator to write it. So the PSC required DPS, which is the regulator, to write it. Some poor human at the regulator, who is not a communications person, wrote it and then wouldn't allow us to edit it. So that's where the breakdown is that the rules, the PSC is saying, we can't trust these aggregators to write clearly. We have to have a standard letter because our people are going to do a better job than these administrators that no one can trust, okay? And so even though we've done this with thousands and thousands of people, and for years, they assume we don't know what we're doing. They go and they wrote this letter that literally had grammatical errors in it, and just, the whole thing was standard power and all of it. And they just didn't allow us to change it. Now we've improved it ever so slightly, only because we at least got the things that were just very unclear or inaccurate out. But there's a long way to go to improve, and it's a months-long cycle every time you do it. You have to think it's going to take you 3 or 4 months to get them to change where a comma goes. And you're going to have every administrator in the whole of New York State agree, or they won't even take the comments.
Okay, Elizabeth, you had your hand up.
You're muted.
Elizabeth, you're muted.
There you go.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I have several points to make. We never received a letter, the one that, in the mail, the one that Ken was referring to. So I'm kind of going on, you know, but also, I guess my loss of confidence in Jewel is that the Columbia was chosen that defaulted on the agreement, and aside from Central Hudson being so difficult to deal with, I'm not, you know, it's very difficult for me anyway to trust a supplier that Jewel might choose after the experience with Columbia. And so I don't know where to go from here. It just seems like total confusion.
Well, I don't think I think the thing with Columbia was a real mess, and it definitely was. There's no sugarcoating that. The only thing I'll say there is that many other ESCOs in New York State and elsewhere, and suppliers, small ones, either went out of business or dropped their clients, right? So Columbia, because of the war in the Ukraine, so the prices went way up. Columbia was too small a company and they didn't manage it. And we have a lot of problems, like they did things that were illegal. What Jewel has done is tighten our contract, but the real thing we did was we now have only accepted bids from very large companies that weathered the storm of the Ukrainian war well. So these are companies that are all of the 3 bids that we reviewed for this were from publicly traded US companies that work across the country and had no problem at all with the Ukrainian war. And we're no longer even accepting bids from the smaller players. They just don't get through our due diligence process anymore. So that's what we've done to make the contract secure, is by drastically adjusting who we will look at.
Well, to that point, though, Jessica, both Constellation and Direct Energy bid when Columbia bid, and rejected both of those bids, and there was not a big difference between or among the 3. So why did Jewel go with Columbia back in 2021?
I don't know if I was not in charge of the bidding process at that point. Now I have a much more personal involvement in the bidding process, and I wasn't. That's not an excuse. It's just me literally telling you I don't know. But I can ask and come back to you and tell you why. There will be a reason, but I don't know what the difference is. My guess is that at that point we had bid with a lot of small providers, never had an issue. We did the standard due diligence, they were fine, and they had the lowest price. That is what I'm assuming the decision was based on.
Okay, thank you. Leslie, you had your hand up?
I do. Yep. So just quickly, when you say, Jessica, email them. I'm not sure who them is. And
You know who? Sorry.
well, much earlier in the
DPS, the Department
conversation.
of Public Service.
I'm asking you. Yeah. So when you said send emails, I assume you mean maybe to Public Service Commission, DPS. The 3 key points you would like us to make in that email are?
Oh, I would like, please, that you say your frustrations with this letter.
Okay.
You know, the order, that they seem to want to discourage people from signing up for renewables, and the definition of 50%.
Okay. And,
And if you have anything else, say
Mhm.
that too. Yeah,
and do we know the email address specifically for DPS?
I can definitely get it for you.
Okay,
Yeah, I'll get
right.
you the right people to email.
okay, that's it. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Sure.
Just to follow up, and thank you, Leslie, for that question, because I think that's really a very important takeaway from this meeting, that we do act in a positive way to rectify some of the issues and some of the concerns that we have. So I think that's really, really important that we all follow up with that. I do have one question along the same lines, which is, my understanding is that Jewel was recommending to the town the 50% renewable
Mhm.
as default.
Yeah.
So my question is, why would Jewel recommend that when we are all looking to promote 100% renewable? Why did Jewel recommend that? And we're coming from a background, Jessica, we're coming from the background of 2021, when the town and the task force recommended and the town went with 100% renewable default only.
Mhm.
What caused Jewel to recommend 50%?
It was a question of price. So when we, and now I'm going to give you slightly wrong numbers. So these numbers are like basically correct, but they're not exact. I can get you the exact rates if you want. But the reason, so again, Jewel wants to maximize the climate benefit of what we're doing. And in doing that, we always have the needle to thread of not alienating the population of the places we're working, because if we alienate the wider populations, we're only going to get one contract. And we, of course, want towns to do this for years, right? Because that benefits everyone the most. So with that in mind, of needing to thread that needle of maximizing environmental benefits while still bringing everyone with us, we have a situation now in New York where the New York renewable certificates have gone from, and now this isn't exactly the correct number, but $7-8 when we last contracted for all of you, to over $20.
Okay.
And what that meant is that the 100% renewable certificate for New York State was disproportionately expensive, right? So it made sense in that scenario to not have a huge step up from, you've got a standard rate and then this massive step up here that might cause public backlash because everyone's electricity cost would go up. And it would encourage people to get off the program entirely, and it would make it harder for the municipal leaders to suggest the program again next time around. We decided, and we suggested to everyone, that they cut the difference in the middle, that they take the 50% renewable from New York, that's expensive, but not have all of it, and that we take the rest from the lower cost national recs. That was the thinking.
So essentially what you're saying is that it was the cost that drove
Yes,
the issue, not
that's right.
the fact that we are committed to 100% renewable.
No,
Yeah.
because I think, okay, it would have been a different decision if we hadn't been able to cover the rest of the load with renewables, right? But we are. So it's still 100% renewable. It's a question of where those renewables come from. But we all live on one planet. New York isn't a planet by itself.
Okay, thank you.
Mm.
Mike, I see you had your hand up for a while, so you're on.
Yes, that's okay. It's a mechanical hand, so it's okay. Well,
An
one
icon.
question, Jessica, have the other towns in the group that we're working with, have they voiced these same complaints to you?
Everyone hates the letter.
Okay. All right.
So we
that's
all
all I-
have that in common.
Okay, so they,
People
okay.
pick different reasons for hating the letter, but the reaction to the letter has not been good.
Okay. I just wanted to know if we're just an island.
No, you're not
ourselves.
alone. No, you are not alone.
Okay.
Yeah. Mhm.
What was my second question? Now, the point is, from a practical sense, a letter has gone out to our population.
Mhm.
If there's some correction, there's going to be another letter going out to
Yeah.
our population.
Yeah,
If I'm sitting at home,
you're
I'm going,
confused.
these people do not know what they're doing. I'm not
That-
signing up for this thing. I'm very
Yeah.
concerned about, I'm not concerned about the program at this point. I'm
Mhm.
concerned about the public. Now,
Mhm.
we look at our Facebook pages and everything else, and this is university level. Most of the people got the letter, and I've seen posts like, does this mean we're free of Central Hudson?
Mhm.
That's the level at which the people
Just
that
so
we're
bad.
trying to sell this to are
Mhm.
operating. So
Mhm.
if we're going to now put out another letter with a correction, that has to happen, but it doesn't serve.
I don't know if it's a good idea to put out another letter. I think the idea of newspaper ads and emails, website corrections and social media posts are going to, and we're also doing some public events. We could do more than one public event, and try and get the people who are most concerned that way. Because I will tell you, having been in situations where we had to send out letters for some reason, second letters, it really does not work well. Like, the amount of confusion it adds tends to outweigh the benefit. That you're getting some benefit, but you also get enough anger and enough confusion that you don't come out ahead. We only ever do that in like a
Okay, I understand what you're saying.
emergency.
I just know there are a few ways that we can get the message out.
Mhm.
The vast majority of the public are not going to see those messages. Not everybody's on Facebook. Not everyone gets a one HV1 newspaper with an ad in it. Not many people are going to look at our website. We are not going to get to the public with a clear message as to what this program is. So if there's not going to be another message out to the whole public, I just think, I don't know. Maybe I'm overly pessimistic, but I just see a problem.
Mike, it's Zach. If you don't mind me just chiming in, kind of just in support of your
Hi, Zach.
comment. Hi, again, I apologize I was late, everybody, but I do agree with thinking about sending out another written correspondence. I think the biggest issue with this program, especially after having dealt with Columbia Utility, is community buy-in, whether it be, just ignorance and not wanting to be involved in the program. But I happen to agree with Mike. I think we would reach far more people and be able to, enhance community buy-in to this program with written correspondence.
I think it could be just a logistic issue at this point, getting a letter drafted, getting it approved, getting it sent out, get the mailing, go to the mailing house, get the copy, send it out. I think given the deadline is what, July 10th, is it to respond?
Mhm.
I'm going to recall. I think from a practical point of view, and maybe Jessica could.
No, that's a fair point, Mary. That's certainly something to consider. That's a fair point.
I mean, we could possibly, Jessica could draft a letter, Jewel could draft a letter that we could post on the town's website, and we could post it on Climate Smart Saugerty's website. And I'm on Facebook. I can put it, Mike's on Facebook. We can put it on Facebook. We can, do some social media outlets if people are on neighborhood, do it that way. But I think just from
I
my
also
experience
just,
getting letters out, it's not all
It's hard.
yeah, no, I totally, I totally agree. Logistically, that could be a whole separate nightmare in itself. I was just, thinking to our most recent board meeting this past Wednesday night, there were some rumblings amongst some of the people there when we announced the upcoming informational sessions that they're both, taking place very close to Memorial Day weekend. A lot of people have plans. A lot of people won't be available to attend. So again, I think our window of opportunity to reach the public, no matter how we decide to slice this pie, is closing. Whether-
We can totally do more public
Okay.
events. Let's
No, you guys have been great. I don't doubt
Yeah.
that you'd be willing to accommodate that. I don't doubt that at all.
for sure. Yeah, no, for sure.
I'm just trying, yeah, again, I'm just trying to
Yeah,
relay what's being heard at the town board level and
Getting people to.
Yeah.
Well, June 10th is the deadline, right? The final opt-out is June.
June
10th?
9th, it's June 9th is the
9th.
opt-out deadline. I just put that in the chat.
Mm.
That means you don't want.
Okay, well, let's leave that on Jessica's plate to figure out,
Lose.
having perhaps another session in early June.
yeah, let's do that.
It may be too late,
thank you,
but
Jessica.
Yeah, no problem.
Jessica, that might just be another option. I know Kathleen, you've had your hand up for a bit, so.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that maybe if you were going to try to reach people, you could put something on local access TV, which I look at to find out what's going on locally sometimes. And you could direct them to an information session if there's going to be a local information session. By using that avenue. And I will say, I did get the letter, and the thing that I didn't understand was, since I'm already bought into Common Energy, I wasn't sure how that worked with Common Energy, but I did call and I got an answer. So,
Okay, good. Did somebody clear that up for you?
yes, they
Okay.
said that I would still be in the program if I needed extra energy, I guess. But
Right.
it's not, I wouldn't have to do anything, but I would be, I guess it would be more or less of a backup for me.
Oh, okay, great. So then
Yeah.
that's fine. That's good.
So that answered my question.
Kathleen, who
Great.
did?
I think that's the TV is a really good idea. I'm writing that down.
Yeah, local TV stations sometimes do have a lot of really local information. I called the help number on the letter.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
Good.
you got a response from?
someone called me back.
Okay,
I didn't get them immediately, but they did call me back.
I just want to make sure I'm the liaison for the village, and some people weren't getting calls back, but you're getting. So
I
that's,
did, yeah.
Okay. Carol, I know you've had your hand up, so would you like to ask?
Well, it's more a clarification, I guess, because I'm probably missing something. To me, it seemed originally that the 50% renewable meant that the other 50% was not. Now that I understand that we're really doing 100% renewable in a different kind of way, out of state, not in state, that doesn't sound so confusing anymore. Am I missing something here that, we said as a committee that it would be 100% renewable? We were choosing that one because we didn't understand the other part. Can we just clarify our position and go along with the town board who had chosen the 50% renewable? Am I missing something here?
Well, I think that train has left the station, as the saying goes. I mean, we've made our recommendation to the town board for 100% renewable. The town board chose 50% as the default. It's not going to change. It's a done deal.
No, I wasn't thinking that we should change it. It just felt like it's still 100% renewable, however we look at it.
Right.
So to me, that feels like we did fine. Perhaps I'm not getting the gist of the parsing of all of this. But I do believe that, as Jessica had said, we're we're a nation and we have many fields out there and many places. So I'm hoping that this truly is 100% renewable. And I don't know that the letter was that hard to understand otherwise. Am I missing something? Guys, no?
I
Well,
think
it
you're
was
just
an
more
order in
educated.
which things were presented. Things were presented, they presented Central Hudson, they presented, dirty energy.
Right.
Then they presented 50%. And
Instead of the
then
other
the
way around.
last thing they presented was the 100% renewable, which we thought was the only one at that point. But it was in the reverse of how we would look at it.
Right, correct, that's
The
true.
reverse in the importance. And people are going to look at it that way.
Yeah,
And
I agree.
the other comment about the difference between the 50-50 and the 100%, there's only a penny difference. There's only a penny difference between what people were thinking, where it was 50% renewable, 50% not renewable, and 100% renewable. So your comments about disenfranchising people because of a large difference in cost, the large difference in cost isn't there. There's only just a couple of pennies difference. It isn't like before where we were getting 7.2 cents versus 11 cents.
Right.
This is all within a penny apiece.
Yeah,
So the choice here is not a matter of money. I mean, the most expensive thing during a year, what's going to cost you $100 a year at the most between any of these things. What the choice is here is emphasizing renewable energy.
Mhm.
And so the issue with the 50% is to really emphasize that even if you didn't choose the 100%, that thing that was called 50% is actually effectively 100%. So you
Mhm.
could feel good about choosing that, where before people would say, oh shit, I gotta, choose 50% dirty energy.
Mhm.
That have that cleaned up is gonna make people feel a lot better
better, yeah.
about
Mhm.
their choice and about our choice.
Great.
Okay, I think we're going to
Great.
take 1 or 2 more questions because it's 5:45 and we have
You have
an
other
agenda
things.
to go through. Leslie, did you have another quick question or comment?
Yeah, the comment was, this would have been so much clearer with 2 very simple words, NYS in front of 50% renewable and outside NYS renewables. And that would have been, it would have clarified at 100% with just a
Yeah,
couple more
absolutely.
words.
And you're saying that DPS would not allow that.
Nope.
Right.
Okay.
And they
That's
might
just-
not even
that's
allow-
Nuts.
Yeah, it's nuts.
And they may still not allow that, is what you're
They
saying.
may still not allow it.
Okay.
But we're not just, what we do, guys, is just not ask. Unfortunately, on the letter, we have to ask. But if we put out newspaper ads and they happen to be wrong, we can just apologize afterwards.
Right, easier to get,
This is why,
Mhm.
but
And then
again, a
easier.
letter from you saying you would like people to be, it's very hard for us to get our hands slapped over and over again over things like this. And you can imagine how hard it is to work in this market right now. It is really hard.
Letters to the editor might be good too, if somebody
Yeah.
wanted to craft some letters to Hudson Valley One.
That's a very good
Um,
suggestion
Freeman.
also. in terms
I
of
have
communication.
one question. Have you made any contact with Senator Henchy?
I'm having a call with the senator later this week.
Well,
Yeah.
she's a resident of Saugerties, obviously, we all know her. And she has also been very active in terms of Central Hudson. So perhaps we can get some more rapid action if she's on board.
That would be really useful. So we're gonna talk, but I sent, something that'd be really useful. I asked Saugerties to sign a statement of support for this legislation that I've been talking about that we all need. If you could push the board to sign the statement of support, that'd be really useful because that statement of support is going straight to the Senate. And the more municipalities we have signing saying that they want to be able to do these kinds of programs for the environment and for their their residents, the easier it's going to be to get that legislation through this season. Otherwise, we're going to have to try again next season, and who knows what will be there and what we're going to be able to do. So if a very, very practical thing you all could do if you were up for it is ask the board to please sign that statement of support like as soon as possible, so that we can start to get some better regulatory requirements here, so that we can use these programs more for the environment rather than just have rules like the ones we're talking about now.
Can we get a copy of that statement of support?
Sure.
If you could send it to all of us.
Do I have all of you?
Send
have
it-
it.
Just send it to Mary and we'll
Okay.
get it.
If you send it to me, and just quickly, because we really do have to wrap up. Just quickly, is that the same legislation that you sent to me about
Yes.
2 weeks ago? And as
Yes.
I read that, that legislation was asking for support that community solar be part of CCA. I did not
Mhm.
see, and if I missed it, correct me, but I did not see anything in that proposed legislation that addressed any of the issues we were talking about tonight in terms of the letter.
Okay, but it does, because it sets the foundation for CCA to be used to the benefit of the CLCPA. Right? So
broadly-
right now, we can go over it together, but that language is in there. Because, and then it also gives municipalities the right to decide how they contract energy. Right now, they don't have that right. It's the department, the PSC that decides that. So for example, we're not allowed to help municipalities contract directly with renewable power plants, which would be really valuable to everyone, right? So we're just not allowed to do it because the PSC hasn't given them that right. The language, we hired a lawyer to draft that language to give the municipalities greater say over how they contract in order to allow them to do this. And the big thing is to have CCA be to the interests of the CLCPA, because right now we don't have that legal mandate. Right. So that's what the law sets the foundation for, and it gives us a way to push back against the regulators when they make crazy rules like this one.
So I am correct in saying it really does go to the point, to your point, it's broader in terms of promoting climate
it's broader.
leadership. Okay,
Yeah.
but specifically it's targeted for CCA to include community solar as an opt-out.
Yeah,
of the
as
program.
well.
That's
Also.
basically what the legislation talks about.
It does both. If you read it again, you're going to see
Yeah,
it's in there. Both are in there. After this conversation, read it again, and you're gonna
Okay,
see it in there. Yeah,
we'll get to that.
yeah.
Okay, I think, Elizabeth, did you have a quick question?
You
Put-
did.
You're muted, Elizabeth.
You're
Elizabeth,
still
you're
muted, Elizabeth.
Now we hear you.
How would we never got a copy of this letter. Is there any way to request a copy of the letter? I mean, I'm sure it's confusing, but it's hard to discuss something when we never received a copy
So
of the
you
letter.
mean the opt-out letter? You didn't get a copy?
No, we never.
So if you send Marie, can you send me her address or name? I need your name and address, and I'll figure out what happened.
I
Is it-
will.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
I-
Jessica,
No.
thank you so much. I think it was a
Thank
Thank you
good
for having me.
meeting, and we appreciate your perspective, and I think you understand our perspective, and hopefully
Absolutely.
we can work together to make this process better. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much,
you.
everyone, for your time. It was a pleasure. I look forward to being in touch.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye. Bye.
Good night.
Or English or something.
She sounds a bit like Leona at times.
Okay, let's move on, folks. So next
Good meeting.
next on the agenda is the approval of the April minutes. Is there a motion to approve? Carol? Oh,
So moved.
Carol, second. Skip. Okay, all approved. Any objections? Carried. Okay. Next is the Climate Smart Communities Action updates. So I know after the last meeting, we We talked about what actions we would look at to try to implement and document for Climate Smart Communities program. So let's start with that in terms of where everybody is. I'll just tell you, I think I know I sent an email a bit ago. I have updated, no, it's not updated. I have posted points for community solar, the program that we worked with Ulster County. And I have also posted points for CCA from 2021, which beats the requirements of 100% renewable default. I posted that. Whether or not that's going to fly, we're going to have to see, because under this new CCA program, the 50% default does not qualify for points for CCA. So we'll have to see. We'll have to see where that goes. So that's as far as I've gotten. I know the rest of some of you have also been working on action. So let me put it out to, I know Ken was working, Mike was working. Where are we with everyone else's initiative to implement some actions?
Well, I was looking at, I don't know the number of the action of the PE number, but anyway, it had to do with resiliency and with and the town's work on resiliency. And it turns out that we have done, and Mary was a part of it, quite a large study already a couple of years ago that basically isolated every area of the township that is in trouble in terms of possible flooding in the future. So I put a request out to Terry Wood, the supervisor's secretary, to hook me up with anybody that might have done any work on this. And as a result, I got a call back from the highway department. And so I went over to see Ray Mayone at the highway department, and within the resiliency program that we did, they highlighted certain areas to be looked at. To the top two were the Malden water treatment plant, the Glasgow water treatment plant, and the Mount Marion Dam. And as far as as far as I could see, I got photographs of the work that has been completed on the Mount Marion Dam. That's been done. There was also resiliency work done at the Malden waterfront. So I don't know, those are two main areas that have been done already. I don't know exactly how to move ahead to look for points or anything like that, but there has been some work done. And at a minimum, we have the whole program that was done 2 years ago or 2 or 3 years ago that we should send in to them. So that's where I'm at.
Okay. Elizabeth, did you have your hand up?
You're muted.
Okay. Well, I had volunteered to look into PE4, I think, heat pumps, install a geothermal heat pump. I would like to amend that to working on solar panel or solar voltaic. And also I volunteered to work on PE5, provide organic waste collection and composting in local government buildings. And I was, both of those issues I'm really not very up to date on, but I contacted Mary McNamara, who has always been interested in the composting issue. And she said one of the main problems is getting commercial haulers to pick up the waste. But if there were at least 15 pickup points, that might be a way to go. And she said another avenue, she had said to address the Kiwanis Club might have a good approach on this. So I'm going to try to follow up on her suggestions. I don't know where to go with the solar voltaic issue because I very little, where I could educate myself on that would be helpful.
Mhm. Okay, Carol, you have your hand up?
Yeah, I did. I was just remembering that you had mentioned what a great idea it would be to see if we could get something for the GHG inventory, municipal inventory. And did you find anything? I haven't looked, so I don't know anything about this. And like Mike, I don't know what PE it would work with, but you had thought that that would work.
Yeah, I will follow up with that, Carol. I have not had a chance to.
Okay, no, okay, no, but it is possible then
It
right
is
now. Still possible.
Yeah, and thank you for bringing that up because that was a lot of points to show that we've
A
done
lot of work.
inventory. And I think it was in the last one, the innovation part of it. I have to go back and relook. I have to revisit it, but yes.
Yeah, and it was great as a planning board member to receive the inventory, the climate smart municipal GHG inventory. So we got that. So it's being disseminated is what I'm trying to say. Somebody has disseminated those reports.
Are you talking about the climate action plan?
Yeah,
Oh, you got the planning board got
the
it.
planning board each got a copy of it.
Oh, good.
I guess I see it as a GHG inventory, but it's really guiding the climate plan. Sorry.
Yeah. It's broader than that, right? And Ken, I know Ken was working on the cooling centers. I got some really good information. Do you want to bring us up to date on that, Ken?
Sure. I've communicated with Greg Chorvis, with Mike Campbell, who handles the town website. And Zach has gotten me a lot of information, but a basic piece of information I cannot seem to get. So I wrote to Fred Costello directly. Last time I wrote, everyone intercepted it because I CC'd her and sent it out to a lot of people, but I have not been able to get an answer. So this time I sent it directly to Fred on his non-Saugerties email address. The basic question is, when does the town and under what condition and who makes the decision open the cooling centers? My assumption is that whenever the county or the state says there is a heat emergency, that somebody says we need to open the cooling centers and put the notice on the town website. I have not yet gotten an answer to those questions. I've gotten some vague responses about it, but there must be some official way of doing it or some official person who takes care of it. And I've been unable to find out from anybody who that is or how it's done so far.
So Ken,
yeah, please.
Oh, I'm
Zach.
sorry. I did not mean to cut you off. So
no, go right ahead,
did,
please.
I did speak with Fred in person at the board meeting as well
Okay.
as Chief Sinagra, but that's a whole separate answer.
Yep.
So essentially, I would say, the majority of the time, right, 9 times out of 10, when the county and or state is issuing an emergency declaration, the opening of the cooling centers will be in alignment with that declaration. The majority of the time, the supervisor, whomever that may be, in this case, Fred, will take it upon himself to reach out to the rest of the board and town officials and say, okay, based on these factors, the cooling centers will be open. He'll issue that statement, and then Terry will, his secretary will then send it out. It's posted on our Facebook page, and things along those lines. So I would like to say that the board as a whole will have discretion as to when these centers are open. But the supervisor, reserves the sole ability to, declare one of these sites being open for whatever the condition might be.
Zach, that is wonderful. Could you put that information into an email to me?
I absolutely can.
So I have it written down by a member of the town board. And
I
with that,
absolutely
think
can.
I can write everything up and send to Mary. So
Sure.
we can put it in for cooling center points.
Absolutely. In that email, I'm also hoping to include with you those dates of operation.
Great.
I was hoping that I'm still waiting to hear back from Terry because I am under the safe assumption that town hall has some sort of record, of these centers being opened. I know that the police department, after speaking with Chief Sinagra last night, anytime any location is open for an emergency, not just that town hall lobby, the police department puts a notice on their official Facebook page. So I didn't have the time last night to cycle through all of their posts, but those dates are available on their Facebook page. If I do not hear back from Terry by tomorrow with a list of dates, I will cycle through that Facebook page and I'll be able to provide you with a rough period of dates. I will say that so far for 2023, I don't believe that those centers have been in operation. So I'll be looking just strictly for 2021 and 2022.
That's great. Thank you. I should be able to write something up once
Not
I
a
have
problem.
that info. Okay.
Not a
great.
problem.
Great.
Okay, Zach, just on that point, the other information that we need for an extra point for this action is to say that the center is open 24/7. If we can say it's open, correction, if it's open other than business hours, we can get an extra point. So if you can somehow.
I will put that in writing. I can confirm that right now. Actually, the town hall lobby is available outside of an emergency declaration past normal operating hours. But again, I'll put that in writing for you. No problem.
Perfect. Okay, so then we'll get 5 points for that, Ken.
Excellent.
Yep, that's great.
Perfect.
Terrific. Okay.
Okay. Okay, anyone else then I'm watching the time.
Mary.
Yeah.
I just have a brief announcement. Okay.
Mhm.
I went to the library today. There was a representative from State Senator Michelle Hinchy's office there. And it was open for anyone who had any concerns. So I went over to talk to them about Central Hudson because I have some issues with Central Hudson, and one of them being the charges for delivery of, I had like $36 in charges for gas, and they charged them $118 to deliver $36 worth of gas, which is outrageous to me. And then there's something else called the RDM on the bill, which is actually some payment that they extract from customers because they're using less energy. And there was a $20 charge on one of my bills, and I read that and I said, I'm actually getting charged because they're selling less energy. So what good is it that I take measures to try to reduce my use and save money and all that? It's frustrating. Anyway, the announcement is that on May 30th, at the Kingston office, Michelle's Kingston office, from 5 to 8 p.m., they are going to have 4 representatives from Central Hudson there. And they're inviting people who have an issue with Central Hudson to make an appointment. They're going to be 20-minute slots. And you can actually sit down and talk to someone face to face and tell them about your issues, and hopefully maybe they can resolve them. My issue is going to be resolved because I'm going to go solar. But anyway, that's May 30th from 5 to 8 p.m.
That does not necessarily reduce your thing. I've gone solar. I've got issues with them.
Really? Okay, well, hopefully there's smaller issues. But anyway, so it's 5 to 8 p.m., May 30th. I believe that's a Tuesday. And you have to call and make an appointment. I'm sorry, I don't have the phone number for her office, but if anyone wants to go in and speak face to face with a Central Hudson person, or if you know someone who would like to do that, then that's an opportunity to do that.
Okay, well, thank you for that.
And just to mention that that's only 9 slots. And there's thousands of us.
There are
who
four,
can
I know
affect
there
it
are 4
anyway.
people.
There'll be lines out the door. There'll be lines out the door,
Yeah.
ready for appointments.
There was no one when I got to the library today. I was surprised because I think they were planning hours from 11 to 3 for someone to come in and speak with Matthew, his name was, who's working in her office, but maybe they came after I did. I was the first one.
Well, I certainly didn't know about it. I do want to make some couple of quick comments. Just to follow up on the meeting in April. The question was raised regarding climate smart communities actions. The question was raised, and I know Ken raised it. When will we be told that the actions that we document will be approved? So I reached out to the coordinator to ask that question. And here's the answer. 2 parts. Number 1, the actions that we post for approval will not be approved until we file, quote, a full application for recertification. Okay. So that's point number 1. Point number 2 that I found out is that the full application for recertification does not have to wait until 2025. We can file the full application for recertification at the bronze level anytime between now and September 2025. So that changes the scenario that we've been working under, because as you recall, I thought we didn't have to apply for recertification, or we couldn't until 2025. That's the way I read it. Okay, so now we can apply for recertification at the bronze level anytime between now and 2025. So that means that we can start looking at the expired actions and start getting those documenting those, that they're updated. So I just wanted to put that out there. 2 things. I will send around to everyone. There's 12 expired actions. I'll send those around to everyone, and then we can start looking at the expired actions. And once we have we think we have 120 points, which is all we need for recertification at bronze. Once we have those 120 points for recertification, we can file then a full application, which they will look at. And after within a 7-week period, they will review that and get back to us to say if they are approved. So does that answer your question, Ken, about when we get approval? Ken, you're muted.
I'm
Yeah.
unmuted now. Would they count only the things that we submitted originally and have redone, or would they count toward the bronze level any of the new things that we've been talking about? And also, if we're then given bronze, can we move up to silver by doing additional things, or we really can't do silver we can't add points until we're ready to submit a complete new proposal?
My understanding is part of the application that we put in, the full application will include updating the expired and also the actions that we are now documenting. For example, the cooling center, that will be included as part of the full application.
Okay, how many points do we need for silver level? The bronze is 125?
300.
Oh,
300.
Is it worth, since we have until 2025, is it worth waiting a while to do the new application until we've done all the extra actions that we're talking about now? because if we recertify for bronze and get the bronze, which I think would not be that difficult since they would accept new actions as well as redone old actions, which you have started, obviously, we might then not be able to go up to silver until we submit a whole new proposal. Or should we do the bronze, but keep doing the new things and simply not submit them until we have enough to go up?
Yeah, I've been thinking about that as well. My initial reaction is open for discussion and everyone's thoughts. My initial reaction, well, what I think is, and I throw this out there, I think we should go for recertification for bronze. Assume we get recertification, assume we have 120 points, and maybe like we had 170 points the last time. So assuming we have 100 and whatever, I'll throw out 70, that will be there, right? That'll be there. And then we continue implementing actions until we get to 300 and then start applying for silver if we ever get there. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that does make sense. That brings up a different question, which is, I believe we've talked about the fact that the actions have to deal with things that have taken place recently within the past year or two.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. So
Yeah.
something that if we wait a while to put things in, something that has taken place recently may no longer be new enough to count for points. Is that a possibility? I'm thinking of the geothermal or the heat pumps or other things that we could get points because we've done them for the first time. We've, moved in a new and positive direction, but by the time we put in for them in a couple of years, perhaps they won't count anymore. I don't know the answer to that. Do you?
I don't know. I would have to pose that to the coordinator. I don't know the answer. No.
Okay.
That would argue for doing the bronze again soon, because it would, it would be within that time frame. The longer we wait, the more things are going to expire. So it would argue that we redo the bronze and then
I'd go along with that. I would go along with that, Skip and Mary. Yes.
Okay.
Go ahead and redo the bronze and put as many extra things as we can with it.
And then the things we add for the silver will be fresher things.
Yes. Yeah. Okay, moving on, the planning board report, Carol. Is there anything?
There's nothing really salient that's happening right now. The Villas is moving through their process. We are going to probably have a public hearing in a month or two, not next month, but in 2 months. And there's both positive and negative reactions to it. I think the largest one is the impact of more cars on a neighborhoody road. There's also Habitat for Humanity, which is sort of using the same neighborhoody roads in that same area and going down into what's considered or was considered by everybody who lived there. Oh, nobody can build there because it's marshy, which is true. But they figured out how to separate the federally delineated wetlands, and they're building the 10 houses, which are basically going to be very similar to what exists just up the hill a little. So there's also quite a bit of vocal opposition, but I think primarily it's just fear of change at this point. I don't think that the right now, not to diminish their anxiety about it, but there will be 20 more cars possibly. There might be more kids. So I think some of it is a reaction to what kind of people are going to be living there. And I can't, they don't state that, they can't state that. But that's the sense that I have of that. Don't put that into the minutes, please. HITS is, once again, they put 4 new living, I don't know what they call them, they're like tiny houses on their RV lot. They had 10 already put in there with our approval. And they went ahead and put 4 more and then came to us. They have a bad reputation for doing something like that. It's not an impact in any way other than the process. There is going to be a new farm and feed store, which is kind of interesting. This young woman is going to be providing a place for horses and other large animals, along with, I believe, pet food on Churchland Road. And the King's Highway is going to have a toy warehouse. And that's basically it.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
And
That's it.
Zach, do you have your town board liaison report?
Yes, so I was gonna actually kick off with the fact that the town board, as of the past couple of weeks, Carol just mentioned it, we've been kind of inundated on both sides with support and disdain for the potential villas project happening on Spalding Lane. I think at this time I would have to agree with Carol's assessment. There's definitely mixed support for that. Obviously, a lot of the anti-villas is coming from the folks, immediately surrounding that area. There's a lot of unknown as to who is going to be occupying those units. And again, as Carol mentioned, they can't exactly state. So I think there's anxiety around that. There's anxiety around how tall is this structure possibly going to be? Is it going to overlook surrounding properties, et cetera, et cetera. But I do foresee the town board being, I do foresee the town board being kind of occupied with this moving forward in the immediate future. Again, there's petitions being signed both in favor of this project and, petitions hitting the town board opposing this project. So I'm interested to see what exactly the next play is going to be. I do not have an update on Winston Farm. That's been kind of stagnant these past few weeks. So we're waiting to see what the next update related to that project is going to be. I did reach out to EAL today from the village. I was hoping to have an update or at least some preliminary figures regarding the harvester usage. I have not heard back from him yet, so I'm hoping to either hear from him tomorrow or shortly after the weekend, and I'll be happy to supply the commission with those figures of the harvester as soon as I get them, because the harvester should have been in use. So like I said, I'm just waiting to hear back from Yao about that. And hopefully there is a second and third operator. So we're looking. The plan was to have that harvester in use upwards of 5 to 6 days a week, as opposed to the 3 or 4 traditionally that it was used. The pickleball courts, for those of you who might be interested, we're hoping to have that project wrapped up soon at Cantine Field. There was a bit of a delay. The highway superintendent, Ray Mayone, did not like the pitch that was involved with the court layout. So essentially the Parks and Recs folks started from scratch. They dug up what they had done and they're relaying it with the proper pitch recommendation coming from Ray. So we're hoping to have that project wrapped up soon, because that's been in the works for quite some time. And we're hoping to have that finished with a favorable ARPA grant coming from the county level. So again, be on the lookout that should be wrapped up, hopefully in the near future. We know the Parks and Recs folks are kind of busy. This is their busy season, with softball, baseball, and everything else happening up at Cantine Field. But again, that project should be wrapped up soon. I don't believe I'm missing anything at the moment. Project-wise, I'm sorry. We did just have our first public hearing last night at the board meeting regarding the potential Malden Water District expansion taking place. A lot of local residents showed up last night in favor of being able to finally hook up to municipal water supply. Last night was a very preliminary hearing. Dennis Larios from Larios Engineering was there and kind of just laid out a rough representation and estimation of what this project is going to look like. It is going to take some community buy-in from those local residents who want to hook up. There isn't essentially a minimum number of residents needed for this project to take place, but it seems to be, the more that are willing to hook up to our local supply, the better. But again, last night was just the first public hearing on this matter. I believe that's it. I would just like to say, I know Jessica, and I apologize for having been late, but Jessica gave a very good, in my opinion, a very good representation of this CCA project. I would just like it on record with this committee that I am personally a little frustrated and disappointed with this process. I think communication all around was rather poor. When I was tuning in, she was kind of outlining the definition of what 50% renewable means. And if I had not tuned in at that time, I still would not have understood what 50% renewable means, because at no point in this process was that relayed to the board like it was relayed just now. And I'm not saying that that's a fault of Jessica's, because she's been great. I've asked her several questions personally. She's always gotten back to me. I think Jewel is doing a good job at communicating, or at least relaying the process with the town board. But after what we dealt with Columbia Utility, I was expecting and hoping that this process would be a little bit more smooth this time around. And I personally have not quite seen that yet. But I'm hoping that this can be rectified and we get the community buy-in for this program, because again, I think it's important that we're offering folks that other option, right? That we're finding ways to save money, use renewable resources where and when it's applicable and feasible to do so. But again, I still am personally a little frustrated with this process.
Yeah, I think we all are, Zach. I think.
Yeah, I got that vibe listening to you folks. Again,
Nothing
I just
personal.
no, and it never is, right? I just like I said, I was expecting more this time around after knowing what we just got done dealing with.
I'm sorry. When we look at it, I didn't mean to interrupt. Sorry.
No, not at all. I'm done. I'm kind of just more venting at this point.
Well, if we would believe what Jessica would say, a lot of that problem, the problem that I had with the letter, a lot of problems that the rest of it have in the letter, didn't come from Jewel and didn't come
Correct.
from the council, it came from the Department of Public Service.
Correct.
Their entrances and their ways of doing it. So what we have to look at is changing that, and it's not the value.
I'm kind of amazed at the amount of red tape that they're allowed to throw up. I personally, and it might be ignorance of my own, and for that I apologize, but I didn't really foresee that being a possibility. But there's a lot more free reign there than I was expecting.
Right. A lot more resistance.
A lot more resistance. Resistance is a better word. Absolutely. Resistance.
Okay, so I gotta go.
Yes, so do I.
Okay. Well, thank you. And this is recorded, so Skip and Mike, you said you had to leave so that
Okay,
you can.
sorry, we have to leave a little early.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so thank you, Zach, for that. And moving on to the next item agenda. Leslie, do you have a report from the Ulster County Environmental Management Council?
Sure, I can summarize the meeting that was held on April 26th. The guest speaker was Eleanor Peck from Hudson Valley Regional Council. And she reported that there is tech support from the council for CSCs and the Clean Energy Communities Project. She reported that there's now 378 total climate smart communities registered. And of that, 118 are actually certified bronze or silver. So about a third, a little less than a third of the registered ones are actually certified. She said the website has help on navigating the climate smart actions. I went to the Hudson Valley Regional Council website and just super briefly, and I couldn't really figure out how to navigate to climate smart help, but she said there's assistance there on working through those actions. It sounds like we're in pretty good shape with that, but it's there as a resource for the communities that are just getting into this. She did say that simply showing up at Ulster County Climate Smart, at the county level, Climate Smart events and signing in or tuning in to a virtual webinar or a virtual meeting, you can get points. You can actually get points towards clean energy communities projects. The other thing, the Ulster County Department of the Environment reported that they are going to be having internships this summer. They have 6 positions for youth age 16 to 25, possibly older, for 2 to 4 days a week for 12 weeks, working with the Climate Corps, the climate group. And let's see, on the 26th of May, Ulster County Department of Environment, there's going to be a get-together in High Falls at Stone Dock Cafe with Ulster County certified green business champs. And it's an opportunity to network and show support for those businesses that are certified green businesses. That's at 5:30. And they said something about grants for EV charging stations. And there's a particular focus on environmental justice communities. So that's it. Yep.
Very good. Thank you. Let's see, next announcements. Anybody have any announcements that they wanted to share with the group? No. Elizabeth, you had an announcement? Yes. Elizabeth, you're muted.
Just to say that I attended the webinar this afternoon about planning for, what was the title of it?
Yeah, the natural resources inventory. Yeah.
Right. And it was very helpful. I mean, frankly, we've gone through most of the processes that they described, but they did highlight Saugerties as having a comprehensive plan and going through the, updating the comprehensive plan. So I was glad that we were mentioned in a positive light during that webinar.
Okay, and that was recorded, and if anybody wants to listen to it, we can get the link. Elizabeth, you'll get the link and we can share it.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so then we're ready to adjourn. We're ready.
I have just one thought, which was somebody who was working on resiliency. Was that you, Ken?
Mike.
Oh, he's gone. So I believe Melissa Herzog was quite involved in the resiliency effort in the town. I don't know if she's still around. Is she still here? Does
I don't know, but I have a copy of the report that was done. There were 2 reports that were done and a matrix that was done to look at, the areas which I shared with Mike. So
okay, great. So he already knows. And the other one, obviously, similarly, is the Cornell Cooperative is also very involved with those efforts.
Well, that was part of it.
That was part of it. That's right.
Yeah, that was part of it.
I think they still are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So hopefully we'll be able to get the necessary documentation to get points for that. So yeah, Mike is working on.
Fine.
Yeah.
You guys know more than I do.
No. Okay. Shall we adjourn and go on to the CAC part of the meeting? Is there a motion to? Actually, there's not much. Okay, is there a motion to adjourn the climate task force meeting? Elizabeth motions.
I move to second, I guess.
Carol seconds. All in favor? Okay, no opposed. Good. Actually, for CAC, the only thing we really have to act on is the approval of the minutes from the April meeting, and I move that we approve the April CAC minutes. Is there a second?
I second.
Elizabeth seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and then announcements. Are any announcements about from the from the CAC point of view, I was glad that, Zach, that you mentioned about the harvester. And hopefully at the next meeting that we'll have a report for what happened in May and an update on that they've hired actually a third operator. And the other outstanding issue really was the place along the creek to unload the milfoil. And that
Yes,
been-
yes. Thank you for mentioning that, because I forgot to mention that previously, but yes, we're hoping to have a second dumping location, or at least a meeting location secured. You know, to be able to at least drop off milfoil and transport it wherever that might need to go. And I'm hoping to have those updates for you as soon as possible.
Yeah, I think Leanne Thornton being on the
Mhm.
board of the Esopus Creek Conservancy and that preserve bordering the creek all the way from the village up through the town, if she could somehow facilitate to find a place on the preserve that possibly the milfoil could be left. I know there's a lot of issues with that in
Mhm.
terms of it being in significantly far away from the creek so that it doesn't
Right.
walk back in, but that
Right.
I think Leanne might be helpful with that, I hope. So anything else then, any announcements with respect to CAC? I know we're all interested in Winston Farms. Zach, you mentioned it earlier. I just hope we are not getting a last minute DEIS, a draft environmental impact statement that we have to act on quickly. We want to have plenty of lead time to review that.
Yes.
There's so many outstanding issues with respect to the forest, with respect to open space, with respect to what the zoning law is going to be. So we're going to need plenty of lead time to analyze that and to make recommendations with respect to comment.
No, I agree wholeheartedly. I said from the beginning that I personally want the studies and the data to dictate how this project moves forward. And in order for that to come to fruition, we're going to need ample time to be able to review those things. That's not just from a CAC standpoint, that's from a town board standpoint. So I'm hoping that the timetable is favorable and that nobody is looking to crunch this project together and push anything through last minute, because I personally won't be in favor of that. Time is the most significant factor here, in my opinion, in order for everybody to, cast an educated vote and for everything to be, reviewed properly.
Good, thank you.
Absolutely.
Anyone else, comments, announcements? We're good? Okay, thank you all. Motion to
Thank you.
adjourn. Is there a second?
Second,
Carol seconds. All in favor?
aye.
There we go.
Thank
Okay,
you.
have a good evening, everyone, and thank
You
you.
Good night, everybody.
Okay.
Just tangentially,